You've made it to Chiro Hustle Live. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession. This week's episode is brought to you by Clothes for Chiro, Legacy Wealth Management, Posture Screen, Chiro Thin, Imaging Services, Zingit Solutions, Peter Goldman's Zone School of Healing, Everest Coaching Systems, Universal Tractioning Systems, Rhino Coaching, Chiropractic Jobs Online, and Chiro Matchmakers. Let's hustle.
Hey everybody, Jim Chester here. This is a sponsorship edition of the Chiro Hustle podcast live stream. And today I have Dr. Pete Goldman with me. He's done something really special. He took this guy named Thurman Fleet's work and he basically brought it to 2018 for everybody to learn from him. And he's done something exceptionally, and he created Zone School of Healing. And if you guys click on this link I'm about to flash up for you, you're going to save some money, and it's also in the title description of this Facebook Live. So if you guys want to come in to Dr. Pete's school, he's given a huge discount from now till the beginning of the year, or anytime that you see this link, because it's sponsored by Chiro Hustle. Anytime you see this link in the description, it's going to save you about $500 to become a student. So with that being said, I am coming in from Grand Junction, which is in the Grand Valley on the western slope of Colorado, which I like to say it's where no one lives. And I moved here to hear the birds chirp. And Pete is coming in from the Bay Area. And how is it today in the Bay Area, Pete?
It's foggy, cloudy, but I actually like that. I never get affected by weather. If it's super hot, I like it. If it's cold, I like it. If it's raining, I like it. I have a friend of mine. She always makes fun of me. She's like, Pete, you ever notice what the weather is? You're the only person who doesn't talk about the weather. So I don't really notice the weather, but I'm happy.
Yeah, one of the things that I really like is one of my friends, when I was riding bikes all the time, he'd say, hey, man, if we'd go ride our bikes on the weather, we'd never go. Exactly.
Well, I went to college in Boston, undergraduate, and it would snow like 4 feet of snow, and the school was always open. They didn't care. So I got used to weather like that.
Yeah, and then you go down to school down there in Georgia, and it snows like a quarter of an inch, and they shut everything down.
It happened while I was there. When I was in chiropractic school in Georgia, it was like 1/8 of an inch. They closed the school.
It's a popular thing to do down south because they're not used to it, and their drivers aren't used to it. The tires aren't like right for it. But anyways, Zone School of Healing. I know that a couple of things that we're going to tackle today and we're going to discuss and go in depth with and get granular with. First of all, Zone School of Healing, discount code is in the description once again. But who is your avatar? Who are you looking for to help with your systems and strategies?
When I started this school about a year ago, I was wrong about my avatar. I'll tell you who it has become, but I'll tell you who I'd still like it to be. What it's become is a few groups. One of the groups that likes my school a lot are the people who wanted to do more for patients than just neck and back pain. So they got involved in things like chiropractic neurology, functional medicine, AK, SOT, which is fine. They're all great, whatever. But they join my school and they say, Pete, I spend 1/10 of the time with a patient and I get 10 times better results. So that's one of my groups. In fact, some of my students have said, hey, the less I think about neurology, the better results I get now that I understand what I understand from you. That's the first group. The second group are people who are just struggling. They just were struggling in their practice, and they come and their practice gets amazing. The other group is people who, they went to school to help people with everything, but when they walk into their own waiting rooms, they're like, man, everyone here is for neck and back pain. And they come to my school and they're like, man, I can help anyone with anything, outside of emergency medicine if someone needs stitches or something. Now, I'll tell you who I thought was going to be my client, but I was mistaken, but I still want them to be my client. And I have a few of them, but not too many. And I shouldn't say that. I have a good number, but I thought it would be I thought they'd be beating down the door, and they should for their own sake and their patient's sake. But anyway, what I always pictured was the people who go to CalJam and DE and things like that, and they talk about being nervous system doctors and above, down, inside out and subluxation and principled chiropractic and straight chiropractic. I thought they'd be beating down my door because those are the ones who really have um, sincere intention to help people. But in my opinion, they still go to their office and everyone there is there for neck and back pain. But guess what? In my office, 80% of my people don't come for neck and back pain. People come to heal their liver, their thyroid, their pancreas, their blood sugar, their blood pressure. People come to heal from panic attacks, um, type 2 diabetes, every nervous system disorder you can think of. And I don't mean like, oh, we're nervous system doctors. I mean like severe nervous system disorders, epilepsy, whatever. So I thought they'd be all over my school because I could show them how to do what they talk about doing, but they don't do. But I have a few of them. And there's one guy, I don't want to mention his name because he may not want me to, but I have one guy who was always on the fence, upper cervical doctor, would always watch my interviews. You know who he is. He's been, you know him. And he was always kind of like checking me out. And finally he's in a school and he's like beyond thrilled. So that's that.
Well, it's really cool how you found who your avatar was and you've transitioned from that. And I think that that's something of a growth pattern when we have like a big vision. What I'm saying to everybody out there watching is you have to do the work in order to get to the point where you create what is ideal for you, and things change over time. And some of the things that you didn't even know that was your ideal client become your ideal client once you start doing your thing. And I think that that's one of the things that we can kind of turn back into the chiropractic conversation is a lot of times people come out of school and they don't know who their ideal client is. And then they go into a practice where they just take it all. They're like, well, I'll take a PI. I'll take neck pain, back pain. I'll take anything. I'll take an athlete. I'll take a pregnant mom. But what you're saying is what you do is Zone's School of Healing is you teach people how to drop the dependency upon insurance and how you just deliver true straight chiropractic.
That's true. And I have two things to say about that. The first thing is, I've been all cash practitioner since the day I graduated. I've never taken insurance in any way, shape, or form. I don't really teach that per se, but it never ever made sense to me. It never made sense to me for me to adjust a patient 10 times and me call an insurance company to beg them to pay me. I'm like, oh, I adjusted them 10 times. And they go, well, based on the paperwork you're sending in, we're going to pay you for 7 of those 10. And instead of paying you your 95, which is what I charge, we're going to pay you 65. Screw that. So every patient walks in, it's $95. They pay cash or credit card, and that's the end of that. So that's number one. Number two, when you talked about straight chiropractic, listen, I don't use any modalities. I just use my hands and a flat bench. That's it. Okay. But I just want to say that the straight movement has veered off the road, and I want to help them if they're interested. Hey, and if you're not interested, then tune off the podcast or whatever this is, a webinar, whatever, I don't know what you call this, but turn it off. But if you want to listen to me, then pay attention. Let me tell you something. All these so-called straight chiropractors that say they can't talk about symptoms, I don't know where you got that. Listen, D.D. Palmer is the founder of chiropractic. No one else can define it. He made it, he created it, he defined it. D.D. Palmer, of course, we don't treat disease. We don't diagnose disease. We don't treat symptoms. Of course, we adjust the cause. But guess what? He was talking about symptoms all day. He has a glossary, if you want to call it that, in his book, The Chiropractor's Adjuster from 1910. It's several pages where he lists about 50 diseases or 100 diseases, and he says, oh, if they have epilepsy, adjust C3 like this. If they have diabetes, adjust T8 like this. So all these people who say like, you have high blood pressure, I can't talk about that. I don't know where they got that. They didn't get that from the founder of chiropractic. And the Reggie Golds and his disciples. I mean, Reggie was great. I like Reggie in a lot of ways, but he distorted the true definition of chiropractic. Period. You can't even argue it. To say that you can't discuss symptoms with a patient is just silly.
Well, I think that you probably opened up a big conversation for our audience out there. So if you guys are watching, you have any questions for Dr. Pete and myself about Zone's School of Healing and any of the techniques that he implements. And a lot of this is based on your understanding of the depth of chiropractic, but it's also based on one person in particular, and that's Dr. Thurman Fleet. And he started this movement, and now you're just taking the torch and making sure that you protect the sacred trust with these tenets of what he created.
Dr. Fleet was a chiropractor. He practiced in San Antonio, Texas in the 30s, 40s, 50s, etc. In my opinion, the greatest chiropractor ever. One of the greatest healers of the last 2,000 years. You can check out his website, drthurmanfleet.com, drthurmanfleet.com, as a little website about him. It's not really his website, but a website about him. And Dr. Fleet, back 25 years ago, I was learning from his disciples. These guys were in their 70s and 80s, and I spent over 100 hours with each of my mentors, who were all students of Dr. Fleet. And as I've told you before, Jim, when I was a student at Life Chiropractic in Atlanta area from 1993 to 1997, man, half the faculty were getting adjusted by me. You got to think about that. You go to chiropractic school, no student is adjusting the faculty. You never heard about that, or maybe once in a blue moon. I had half the faculty knocking on my freaking door getting adjusted, sometimes at 11 p.m., because I knew what I knew and it wasn't taught in school. So results are results. Now, one thing I want to say, and this is going to, upset a lot of people, but, whatever.
I like it.
So the thing that, is, you can label it, call it whatever you want, but a lot of chiropractors hide behind their chiropractic philosophy. And what happens is they put their philosophy ahead of the patient. And I'll give you an example. It could be like, and by the way, I have nothing, we'll use I was going to use upper cervical, but it doesn't matter. I like upper cervical. Upper cervical is great. But you have a patient come in, they're like, man, I'm suffering from severe migraine headaches. My head hurts 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's ruining my life. I'm suicidal because my head hurts so much. Now, that patient comes to me, you give me a month and a half with them, their head will never hurt again, or maybe less. But there's some chiropractors will say, well, I checked you out, according to my parameters, you're subluxation free. I'm not even going to adjust you today because according to my parameters, you don't even need an adjustment. And then they go home, happy that, excuse me, that they stayed to their parameters and their chiropractic philosophy. Meanwhile, that patient is still suffering. And then, 40 years later, the patient's like, now I'm 80 years old. My head's hurt every day for the last 40 years. But I went to some chiropractor that said that within their parameters, I was okay according to their subluxation analysis. But it ain't about that. It's about helping suffering people not suffer anymore. So when you put your so-called philosophy ahead of a patient, that's not something, in my opinion, you should do. But it happens all the time. But it doesn't happen with my students in my school, that I can promise you.
Yeah, and I know that one of the things you touched on there was a certainty behind your adjusting skills. And I know that you have an event coming up this weekend in Atlanta, which is based around your students that you currently have. And enrollment has gone up big time recently. So good job on, going out there and getting people into help more people. I think that that's the thing that we discussed offline on our chat was you help me, I help you, we help more people. And it's really like a circle of trust. But I think that as you start to share your message with more people, they're going to realize that they don't need to have an insurance-dependent practice. They have certainty in their adjusting techniques and skills. And, it's a very simple thing, but you can charge cash for it and help a lot of people. But let's talk about this event that you have coming up in Atlanta. And before we get to that event, let's just people that are watching, if you guys are watching this live, hashtag live. If you're watching this on replay, go in and hashtag replay so we know you watched it on the second time around. And if you are watching, just please comment in where you're watching from so we know where our audience is filtering in from. Appreciate everybody that's on with us. Just stick with us with Chiro Hustle. We do keep free speech alive and well in chiropractic. That is one of the foundations that we stand on, and that's why we build alliances with Dr. Pete Goldman and his Zone School of Healing. But the school, you're having a big weekend in Atlanta. Let's talk about that weekend.
Okay, so my school is 100% online, and a lot of people who are going to join, they're like, can I really learn it online? Yeah, you can learn it online. I have 225 students all over the world who are getting miraculous results. I was telling Jim before, one of my new students had a patient come in with severe psoriasis all over their arm. People don't know what to do with psoriasis. Dermatologists don't know what to do with psoriasis. Chiropractors don't know what. Chiropractors, if someone comes in with psoriasis, good luck. And you're probably going to put them on some diet or something. But I have a new student, and they just worked on it for a couple of weeks, and the psoriasis is almost completely gone, and it will be completely gone. So people can learn online from me, and I have a 100% money back guarantee. So if you can't, just get your money back. But I do have a lot. People kept saying, "Hey, can we have a live event?" I'm like, "Oh, we'll do a live event." So this weekend, I'm going to Atlanta. I'm teaching about roughly 30 of my 225 students are coming, and we're going to have an amazing live event, and we're going to film it, and it's going to be available as an advanced course in my course for people who already are enrolled. And I think we're going to, in the future, do more live events. But it doesn't matter if you never come to a live event; it means nothing. You will learn everything you need to online with the school. But yeah, live events are fun, and we'll do some cool stuff.
You've made it to Chiro Hustle Live. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession. This week's episode is brought to you by Close for Chiro, Legacy Wealth Management, Posture Screen, Chiro Thin, Imaging Services, Zinget Solutions, Peter Goldman's Zone School of Healing, Everest Coaching Systems, Universal Tractioning Systems, Rhino Coaching, Chiropractic Jobs Online, and Chiro Matchmakers. Let's hustle.
Well, I think that that's really cool. And that's what I learned with marketing is that most people that want to create a movement, they have to manifest something that's not being done, or they have to find something that is unique and novel in the marketplace. And I think that you've done something that's really cool is you've taken a technique that is grounded in results, and now you're teaching this to people. And one of my questions for people, many of the viewers that are out there watching, they're probably wondering, so what does it look like A through Z if I worked with Dr. Pete and adopted this zone technique?
Okay, so when you join my school, and Jim has a link you can join right now. You get immediate access to a membership site, and on the membership site, there's several instructional videos that I've made that explain how to do what I do. Now, the zone technique, the physical technique, is just a little part of what I teach. Most of what I teach are the principles of healing. Now, we also have every Sunday at 1:30 p.m. California time. Pacific Standard Time. We have a live Q&A. So we have a webinar. You have access to 6 weeks of live Q&As with me. We get on, you ask me questions, we review everything you need to know. And you also have access to a library of Q&As, which at the moment is about 65 hours. But I'll tell you right now, as great as the instructional videos are, it's all about the Q&As. If you get into my Q&As, you'll be a spectacular healer. And listen, Jim, at the end of the day, someone could say, hey, I love upper cervical, because if you don't have the C1, C2 area aligned, the brainstem's going to have interference, and that's the most important thing. Well, someone might say, well, I actually like the Logan technique, the old school Logan technique, and we got to get that sacrum and that area taken care of. Or someone might say, hey, I like network, and I don't even think you should be thrusting into the spine until you prepare the meninges with very light touch. And someone else might say, well, AK, I can do some very specific muscle tests. Listen, at the end of the day, it's about results. I wish that these chiropractors could get it, or just come visit me. Just sit in my waiting room. Come to San Francisco, come visit me, and you'll sit in my waiting room and you'll be like, wait a second. And I'll tell you, and I've said before, but I'll say again, not a week goes by, I'll repeat, not a week goes by where someone doesn't fly in to see me for healing when they couldn't heal anywhere else. And then I have a slew of patients who are driving 3-4 hours each way. So that's 8 hours of driving for a 3-minute session with me because of the results. If any of these other techniques, whether it's chiropractic, neurology, functional medicine, AK, get the results that I'm getting, then good. Then, log off this call now. But I don't think you are. And by the way, when I say that 80% of my patients are non-musculoskeletal, they are. But the 20%, I mean, I have people flying into me from Malaysia, from freaking Japan, who were supposed to, we're told they definitely needed neck surgery for disc, whatever. We fix them right up and they're back doing, pro sports or whatever. So, like I said, if someone's bleeding, get stitches. Outside of that, I can teach you how to help just about anything more effectively than anything you'll find. And that's, people come to me, they've been to acupuncturists, homeopaths, other chiropractors, whatever. And, the results speak for themselves.
Well, I think it's pretty impressive that people come from far and wide to get adjusted by you out there in San Francisco. One of the things I wanted to talk to you about, both your student and for the person that you are able to adjust. What do you appreciate most about the work that you do?
I mean, it's just a great feeling when someone sits down in my office on the first visit and they tell me something like they have an autoimmune disease and their digestion is horrible. Every time they put something in their mouth, they're totally bloated from it. They can't sleep at night. They have panic attacks. They're depressed. They don't have a will to live. They they have pain all over their body, and and they tell me I've been to 2 chiropractors, I've been to an acupuncturist, I've been to 3 MDs, and in my head while they're talking, I'm really like, in a few weeks this person's going to be all better. That's a great feeling, and then it happens because I know what to do to make that happen. And it's not. I don't give any supplements or vitamins or herbs or machines. It's just me and my hands and them. That's it. Okay, that's number one. And what's also super gratifying is, when you join my zone school, we have a closed Facebook group just for the students. So once you join, you get access to that. I just log on to that every day, and people are coming to my students with, all over the world with these, I would call severe diseases and heal. So it's great that it's funny. Like I'll tell you the story. I have this guy. He's actually a very famous chiropractor. I'm not going to mention his name, but you probably heard of him. He's a very famous chiropractor. I'd say he's renowned. And he had some health challenges, but he doesn't live too close to me, so he flies to see me. And he's better. He's healed. And I said to him, "Hey, you're a pretty famous dude, and you have the ear of a lot of chiropractors. You could tell people about what I do." And he said, "Nah, Pete, I think it's just you. You have like magic hands." I said, "No, man. I go in my Facebook group every day or something like every day, and I have students all over the world getting what, results that the world would call miracles." So yeah, it's very gratifying to see my students do this. And I see there's a comment from Tim McFadden.
Yeah, he's a good friend of mine too. So
okay.
Thanks for being on, Tim.
And Tim is in my school now, and he's he's writing a very nice comment. If you want to read it, Jim, you can read it.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and run it down. Thanks, Tim, for commenting. He says, "Since I've started with Zone School of Healing, I feel more like a healer. Doing upper cervical work, I've always addressed non-musculoskeletal issues in my clinic, but this is different. I'm just learning. I implemented the zone technique literally 3 days after joining. It's been phenomenal."
So there you go. So Tim, Dr. Tim, already was a great chiropractor, a great upper cervical doctor. I think in the Seattle area, and he's been in the school. And you see the testimonial right there. And by the way, he also put a comment earlier. I think, are we going to have
West Coast?
Dr. Tim, I do plan to. I would like to have seminars all over the country. So we'll maybe do one in Seattle area. Who knows, or somewhere on the West Coast.
And if you guys did want to go to the Zone School of Healing, there's a link in the description of this Facebook Live where you can save $500 if you jump in today, and you can become a student and you can learn from Dr. Pete, and you can have access to this private Facebook group. You can then go to these live events that he puts on, and then you have access to all the other healers inside that group that are actually doing the adjustment and allowing bodies to heal. And one of the things that you said about one of the things that's gratifying to you is people show up to your office sick and they don't know where to go or who to trust, and then you start adjusting them and their body starts healing. So a lot of this is based on the checks that you do. It's based on the technique that you practice, and it's delivering a fee to people to get them adjusted and knowing that it's the right set fee, which then takes that whole thing of being a chiropractor out of the equation, and it allows you to be the healer with certainty. And I think that that's one of the coolest things about what you said is that you get to be the healer of certainty, and you know that this person's body is going to improve and respond. And whether they've been said, hey, you got to go get surgery. Hey, you're not sleeping. Hey, you have this, you have an autoimmune disease. You see people's bodies responding because of your certainty.
I just
That's the
love,
difference.
I couldn't have said it better, Jim. And I just love a simple thing like panic attacks. I mean, people come in, they're at psychologists, psychiatrists, they're on medication. I mean, they have panic attacks. Um, when they come to me, they don't have them anymore. I mean, that's one of 100 things, but that's kind of cool. It's kind of hard to live your life when you can't go outside without having panic attacks.
Well, if you guys are having a panic attack about having uncertainty in your systems and your adjusting techniques, reach out to Dr. Pete. I'm all into call of action, so call to action. So if you guys want a call to action, click on the link in the description above and jump on the School of Healing. The Zone Technique School of Healing is open for chiropractors, and we have 250 people already enrolled. So join that team, join that think tank, join the discussion, and join the school. And I think that if you guys click above, you're going to save $500 on the school's enrollment. And I do believe that prices are going up. So jump in now while it's still at the lower barrier of entry for you to become a student. And with that being said, Dr. Pete, is there anything I didn't touch on that you think our audience needs to hear today?
Let's see here. I think we touched on a lot. I mean, if I had to kind of reiterate any part of it, I would just kind of summarize or reiterate a few things. You know, it's always a little rough on the ego to think like, man, I've been super invested emotionally and time wise in something. Maybe something's better. So have the guts to try something better because it is. And listen, I love all these chiropractors. I respect them. You know, I'm not trying to say stuff to intentionally upset them, but there's a lot of confusion in the profession. A lot of people are struggling. So my message to you is stop struggling. You guys stop struggling. You don't have to struggle. Um, if you learn from me, I think it'll be a pleasure to go to work in every way, shape, and form. And that's what I want to help you with. And if you're already set and you're happy, hey, good for you. I'm happy for you.
Yeah, David Schulte says, I started with the Zone School of Healing 1 month ago today. The Zone technique is revolutionizing my practice. It's easy for chiropractors to understand and easy for patients to understand. So if we simplify it and we go back to the adjustment, my avatar doc is somebody that practices chiropractic. Their occupation and their degree is chiropractor, but their job title is adjuster. So I think both of us have the same ideal target audience is that we want to help the adjuster, which is the chiropractor, have more certainty and be able to help more people and to take the pressure off of the system. When you take the pressure off the system, then you get to act as that chiropractor and as the adjuster. And I think that that's such a beautiful place for a chiropractor to be. They don't want to be always the business. They don't always want to be the marketing, but they do always want to be the adjuster.
I've never spent a dime on advertising or marketing in my life. The results speak for themselves. And I think at the end of the day, people have to get beyond their philosophies and their techniques and just care about the patient healing. Because the way I look at it is, if someone comes to you and eventually they're walking around saying, "Man, my body feels great head to toe and it functions great head to toe," hey, like what else is there to talk about? And by the way, um, for example, like I'm not what you would call a mixer. Like I don't use any modalities, but I'm not even against that. If someone let's say there's someone who uses modalities and they get great results, that's cool. Like I think it's silly when people are like fighting over being a straight or being a mixer or being upper cervical or not being upper cervical or being whatever. Like, I'm about results. Listen, or I hear a lot of chiropractors make fun of like the flying seven. The flying seven is like, oh, just crack both sides of the neck and crack all up and down the spine and crack both sides of the side posture with no real analysis. Now, by the way, I obviously don't do the flying seven. I do the zone technique. It's very specific. But the funny thing is about the people who make fun of the flying seven. Pasquale Sarasoli, he's one of the greatest chiropractors ever, ever, ever. Look him up, Brooklyn, New York, which is where I'm from. See, Brooklyn, New York. Pasquale Sarasoli, one of the greatest chiropractors ever. He helped people heal from stuff that most chiropractors wouldn't even know where to start with. And he practiced till he was like 97. The point is, go to YouTube and watch the video of him adjusting. He's doing a flying seven. He just cracks every bone. He cracks up and down the spine from T1 to S1. He does both sides of the side posture, cracks both sides of the neck, pulls the feet, pulls the arms. He looks like he does almost no analysis. I don't do that. I'm not recommending that in particular, but look at his results. So all these people who are like, oh, I'm a chiropractic neurologist or upper cervical or whatever, you don't get results like Pasquale Sarasoli. So think about what matters, which is results, not your so-called technique or philosophy.
I think that's so huge, is getting out of your own headspace and realizing that what you're doing is putting an impact on someone's nervous system, unlocking the subluxation, allowing the body to heal the right way from above down, inside out. And I think that is the essence of what a chiropractic adjustment does. And whether you're doing the upper cervical, you're putting a force into that person's body, removing interference, allowing the body to respond, which is this natural flow. And it's not to be subluxated. It is to be unsubluxated, living as it should. And that's what chiropractors do. And I think if all chiropractors start beating this drum, then it would become so awesome of a sound that people are only detecting, locating, and correcting vertebral subluxations. I think that the profession would definitely have its own identity, and it would know that everybody that came in could be helped. And it wouldn't be about how many visits can I get paid for. No, it's about delivering the goods because you found where that subluxation was and you adjusted it, and now that person's life is doing this instead of doing this.
Excellent. And by the way, I don't want to get into it now, but when you join my school, I think you'll understand a lot more about subluxation. I'll just put it like that. But that's for my students.
Well, I'm going to close out, but Tim McFadden asked, he said, before you go, do you have any DCs to be in the Zone School of Healing?
The question is, do we have any chiropractic students in the Zone School of Healing? That's the question. Yes.
Yep.
We have, off the top of my head, about 5 to 10.
Okay.
About 5. But I will say that chiropractic students, no, more like 10. We have about 10 DC students in the Zone School of Healing. But I'll tell you right now, if someone's a DC student, they should join. And, just be polite to your teachers, because you're going to know more about healing than anyone who's in the faculty. But, just be polite and just be respectful and graduate. But if you join my school, you're going to know a lot about healing.
That's really cool. And anybody out there that wants more certainty in their adjusting techniques, Zone School of Healing, click on the link in the description up there. I'll also put it in the comments. Reach out to Dr. Pete. Build certainty in your practice. Build certainty in your techniques, and go out there and deliver the goods and release those subluxations and allow people's bodies to free up and heal. Before we jump off, I'm going to do a quick roll call. David Schulte, thanks for joining. Zach Lujan, love you, brother. Thanks for being on. Tim McFadden, since day one, man, we've had good synergy. You've always helped. Let's go down. Mark Lindholm, thanks for joining. Michael Tokash, if you guys need x-rays, he's one of the sponsors of Chiro Hustle. It's Michael Tokash with Imaging Services. The guy rocks. If you guys want the latest in technology, reach out to him. And Haley Jules, such a dream to the chiropractic profession, unsubluxating systems of how clinics run and allowing people to have more profit, more fun, and know that the people that are in position are actually doing what they're supposed to, and the system is running smoothly. So thank you, Haley and Tim and David and Zach and everybody that's responded to this Facebook Live interview. If you guys want to save money, once again, click above. Dr. Pete, thank you for supporting what we do and keeping free speech alive and well in the chiropractic profession. And if you guys are ready to close out, I am too. You're just one story away. Keep hustling.
Later,
Thanks,
guys.
Doc.
Thanks, Jim.
See you on the next one.
Thank you for listening to Chiro Hustle Live. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.